Why evil people succeed, Nietzsche's dark truth revealed. Why do evil people succeed? Why do the liars, the manipulators, the ruthless rise to power while the kind, the honest, and the selfless are left struggling? We've all seen it: the corrupt CEO who steps on others to build an empire, the politician who deceives millions yet wins election after election, the power-hungry tyrant who controls the masses while the good-hearted remain powerless. It feels unfair, almost like the universe rewards the worst among us. But what if I told you that this isn't a glitch in the system? What if this is exactly how the world is meant to work? And what if Nietzsche, one of the most misunderstood philosophers of all time, had already unraveled this dark truth? We are taught from childhood that good wins in the end, that justice prevails, that if you work hard, play fair, and treat others with kindness, success will follow. But look around. Is that really how the world works? Or is this a story we've been told to keep us weak? Nietzsche believed that morality itself, our idea of good and evil, was not some universal truth, but a tool. A tool used by the weak to control the strong. He argued that the very foundation of our morals was built on resentment, on bitterness from those who lacked power. But think about it. Throughout history, who has defined what is good? The powerless, the oppressed. They created a morality that glorifies weakness, humility, obedience, self-sacrifice, while demonizing strength, ambition, and dominance. They called the powerful evil not because they were wrong, but because they were strong enough to shape the world to their will.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
This is what Nietzsche called slave morality. A morality designed to keep the strong from rising, to keep the ambitious from taking control. It teaches us that power is bad, that ambition is selfish, that wanting to dominate is immoral. But here's the brutal reality. The world does not run on morality. It runs on power. And those who understand this, who reject the illusion of morality and embrace their will to dominate, rise above the rest. This is why evil people succeed, because they are not shackled by the rules that bind everyone else. They do not hesitate to take what they want. They do not wait for permission. They act. They create. They impose their will on the world. But here's where things get even darker. If Nietzsche was right, then what does that mean for us? Are we meant to abandon morality, to become ruthless, power-hungry, willing to do anything to succeed? Or is there another way? A way to rise without losing ourselves? And if power is the true force that drives the world, then what does that mean for those who refuse to take it? Are they destined to be ruled by those who do? The ruthless reality, why power, not morality, shapes the world if morality is a tool of the weak, and power is the true force that drives success. But then what does that mean for those who wish to live virtuously? This is where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes deeply unsettling. But most people like to believe that justice, fairness, and kindness will eventually triumph. That the universe has some built-in mechanism to reward the good and punish the wicked. But history tells a different story. The greatest empires were not built through kindness, but through conquest. The wealthiest men did not gain their fortunes by being fair, but by outmaneuvering their competition. The most influential leaders did not rise to power by waiting for permission, they took it, often at the expense of others. But here's the part most people don't want to accept. Power is not inherently evil, but it is not something that only corrupt people seek. Power is simply the ability to shape reality according to your will. It is the force that turns ideas into actions, dreams into realities. And those who reject power, who refuse to claim it, do not become free. They become ruled. Because power does not disappear just because you ignore it. It merely shifts into the hands of those who are willing to wield it. This is why so many good people fail. They hesitate. They wait for the world to recognize their worth instead of demanding it. They follow the rules, believing that playing fair will eventually lead to victory, not realizing that the game itself was designed by those who refuse to play fair. They cling to morality not as a personal code, but as a shield, hoping that if they are good enough, the world will reward them. But the world does not reward goodness. It rewards strength. It rewards those who do not ask, but take. This is why the ruthless succeed, not because they are evil, but because they understand the reality of power. They do not waste time waiting for fairness. They do not seek permission to lead. They act, they shape, they impose their vision onto the world. And while the weak sit back and complain about how unfair it all is, the powerful continue to dominate, to build, to rise. Does this mean that morality is useless? That we should abandon all ethics and embrace pure ambition? Not necessarily. But it does mean that if you wish to succeed, if you wish to break free from being controlled by those who are willing to take power, you must stop thinking like a servant. You must stop believing that the world will reward you for simply being good. You must develop strength, not just physical or financial, but mental, strategic, and philosophical. Strength of will, strength of vision, strength to take action even when others hesitate. Because here is the harsh truth: if you do not claim power, someone else will. And they will use it to shape the world in their image, not yours. The question is not whether power should exist. It always will. The question is whether you will be the one who wields it or the one who is ruled by those who do. The will to power, how to rise above the weak without losing yourself if power is the true currency of the world, and if morality has been weaponized to keep the strong in check. But then how do we navigate this brutal reality without becoming the very thing we despise? This is the question that separates those who blindly chase dominance from those who truly understand the essence of power. Nietzsche never said that one must become a tyrant to succeed. He never claimed that cruelty was the path to greatness. What he argued was far more profound, that the highest form of power is not just the ability to control others, but the ability to transcend them to become something greater, but to elevate oneself beyond the petty morality of the masses, and to forge a path that is entirely one's own. Most people live their lives beholden to invisible chains. They are ruled by fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of stepping too far outside the boundaries set for them. They tell themselves that they are moral, that they are good, that they are better than those who seek power. But in reality, they are simply afraid to take responsibility for their own success, to claim what they truly want, afraid to break free from the comfort of mediocrity. And so, they convince themselves that power itself is corrupt, that ambition is dangerous, that greatness is something to be feared rather than pursued. But here's what Nietzsche understood: power is not just about ruling others. It is about mastering oneself. It is about overcoming the limitations that society, upbringing, and even one's own mind have imposed. The ultimate power is not in crushing those beneath you, it is in becoming so strong that you no longer need to. It is in rising so far above the weak that their petty concerns, their jealousies, their manipulations no longer affect you. This is the essence of the Übermensch, Nietzsche's vision of the evolved human, the one who does not simply accept the morality handed to him, but who creates his own values, his own path, and his own destiny. So how does one do this? How does one rise above without becoming lost in the pursuit of power itself? The answer lies in understanding the difference between power as a tool and power as an addiction. The weak crave power to fill a void. They seek dominance not because they have something great to build, but because they are hollow inside, desperate to prove their worth through control. This is why tyrants always fall, because their power is built on insecurity, on fear, on a desperate need to be seen as superior. But the strong, those who truly embrace Nietzsche's philosophy, do not seek power to dominate. They seek power to create, to shape, to build something greater than themselves. This is where most people misunderstand Nietzsche. They think his philosophy is about pure selfishness, about embracing cruelty and stepping on others to succeed. But in reality, his philosophy is about transcendence, about becoming something greater than the petty, envious and fearful masses. But it is about breaking free from the shackles of small thinking, of mediocrity, of the excuses that keep people trapped in lives they don't want. True power is not about crushing others. It is about rising so far above them that their games no longer matter. But here's where it gets even more complicated. The moment one begins to rise, the moment one begins to break free from the herd, resistance begins. Society does not reward those who step outside the lines. It punishes them. The second you decide to take control of your life, to reject the weak morality designed to keep you in check, you become a threat. People will call you arrogant. They will call you selfish. They will tell you that you have changed, that you should be more like everyone else. They will try to drag you back down. And this is where most people fail, not because they lack the ability to succeed, but because they cannot handle the weight of being different. So I ask you, if you knew that achieving greatness would make you an outcast, would you still pursue it? If you knew that rising above the weak would mean losing the approval of the masses, would you still choose to rise? Because this is the price of power, not corruption, not cruelty, but isolation. The higher you climb, the fewer people will understand you. The stronger you become, the more resistance you will face. And most people, when faced with this choice, retreat. They go back to the comfort of conformity. They convince themselves that maybe it is better to be liked than to be powerful. That maybe it is better to be accepted than to be great. But for those who refuse to retreat, for those who embrace the struggle, a new world opens. A world where you are no longer bound by the expectations of others, where you are no longer limited by fear, where you are no longer waiting for permission to live the life you were meant to live. This is true power, not the power to rule over others, but the power to rule over yourself, to shape your own path, to become the master of your own destiny. So the final question is this: will you take it? Will you claim the power that is rightfully yours, or will you surrender it to those who are willing to take it from you? Because make no mistake, if you do not decide, someone else will decide for you. The only real choice in life is this: to be the one who shapes reality, or to be the one who is shaped by those who do. Beyond good and evil, the path to true power and freedom. Now that we've torn apart the illusion of morality, exposed the reality of power, and confronted the brutal truth that most people will never rise, because they are too afraid to embrace what it takes, there is one final question. Where does this leave us? If Nietzsche was right, if the world does not reward goodness but strength, then how do we move forward without becoming consumed by the very power we seek? How do we rise above the weak without losing our humanity in the process? The answer lies in something deeper than mere ambition. It lies in the understanding that true power is not found in wealth, status, or control over others, but those things can be taken away. True power is internal. It is the unshakable mastery over oneself, the ability to impose one's will upon reality, not through deception or brute force, but through sheer presence, vision, and unrelenting action. The greatest men and women in history, the ones who shaped the world rather than merely living in it, did not waste time seeking approval. They did not wait for permission. They did not concern themselves with whether the masses saw them as good or evil. They simply created. They built. They imposed their will upon the world, not because they sought validation, but because they had no other choice. And this is the final truth that few will ever understand. Power, in its purest form, is not about taking from others. It is about becoming so complete, so self-sufficient, so unshakable in your own purpose that you do not need to. The weak fight for scraps. The strong create new worlds. But the highest level of power, the level that Nietzsche saw as the destiny of the Übermensch, is the power to transcend the very game itself, and to no longer see life as a battle between good and evil, strong and weak, but as a blank canvas upon which you alone have the right to paint. This is why the truly great do not seek revenge. They do not waste energy on resentment. They do not concern themselves with petty conflicts or meaningless struggles for dominance. Those are the concerns of small minds, of people who have not yet realized that their true enemy was never another person, but their own limitations. The highest form of power is freedom, the freedom to think independently, to act without fear, to live without the need for permission. It is the power of creation, not destruction. And it is the one thing that no tyrant, no manipulator, no corrupt ruler can ever take from you. But here's the part that most will never dare to face. This path is lonely. It is difficult. It requires rejecting the comfort of belonging, the illusion of safety, the false promises of a world that tells you to stay small. Most people are not willing to walk this path. They would rather be accepted than be free. They would rather be told what to do than take full responsibility for their own existence. And that is why so few ever achieve true greatness. So I ask you one final time, what will you choose? Will you cling to the morality that was designed to keep you weak, or will you rise above it? Will you wait for success to be handed to you, or will you take it? Will you live by the rules of others, or will you create your own? Because in the end, there is no middle ground. There are only two kinds of people in this world, those who shape reality and those who are shaped by it. And the only question that matters is this: which one will you be?